minutes this morning just walking through this. Okay. So what you're seeing here is a sample template. So later in the course, we will start talking about the tools. You can capture the similar sets of information in those tools directly. But I think the first thing helps us is putting together the information of what all you will need it. Okay. When you go into the workforce, depending on the company that you're working, some may be just using an Excel sheet to capture the test cases. Some may have a template like this, and some may just use different tools like HPLM or Microsoft's Visual Software Review System. The more important thing is to understand what information needs to be created and how you're going to create that information from your requirements document. Okay. So typically, you try to track it down because you will have a lot of projects within your company, and so you're trying to think about a filing system, right? For each project, you will have sets of test cases, and even within those projects, you may have different modules. Like if you recall it in the requirements document, you had an R-Flown, and then it was functionally broken down into 5, 6 different modules, right? From managing the dealers all the way to the reports. So each module will probably contain its own sets of test cases. So first thing we need to capture it is, hey, what the project name is and what the module name is. And we will write one example. So as we go through it, we'll build one. Then you try to identify, okay, in a scenario where there's only one tester, it's very obvious. But 6 months down the road, let's say you want to do some enhancement to that system, and somebody else is going to run that. They need to know who is the original author, in case if they have any questions that they can reach out to, right? So essentially, who designed this test case? When it was designed? Was it original version or what modified? When you run the actual test case, then you will have the runtime characteristics and data, right? Who ran it, when it was last run, what is the priority for the test case? Then it will be a test case number. So, like it's when you have a lot of test cases, you need to have some numbering systems in order to figure it out what the filing system is, right? Then you need to have some sort of English title. Well, what is this test case is trying to achieve? What is the purpose of this test case? Then it will be a precondition. Remember, like we said that, hey, when I want to run a test case, I want to have an input, but I also understand what is the state of the system is. So if there are any specific precondition that has to be true before you start running this test case, you want to do that. Okay. The dependency, if this test case is going to be dependent on some other test case or some other module or functions up and running, then you identify that, hey, you can't run this test case because it has a dependency on this. Okay. Test summary is sometimes you have a title, but you want to provide a lot more detail in the summary to have somebody read an English version and understand what exactly you're trying to accomplish here as part of this test case. Then you actually put the step-by-step instruction, how I'm going to run this test case. Okay. What should happen first, then what should happen, and then so on. Okay. For each step, then you will also identify, when I run that particular step in the system, what should be expected? What should I see in the system happening? Okay. So for every step, you will have an accepted result. Okay. When you actually run, so when you start executing it, you will see what the system is behaving. You will capture that, and this is the opportunity when you try to compare. Hey, is my expected results and actual results coming out from the system, are they same? If yes, then I will go ahead and proceed to the next step. I'll continue to do that till I'm done with all the steps. In that case, hey, system is behaving exactly like what I was expecting it. Or in the scenario where it doesn't match, you said, wait a minute, system is not behaving like what is expected, so I can't proceed further, there's something wrong. So you either open a defect at that time, and tomorrow we'll talk about the defect management process. And then you fail the test case, hey, this test case couldn't proceed any further. I found an error in the system, right? So actually my test case was useful to me because I was able to uncover an error. Then, there are some additional section about test data. In order to run the test, I need to know the data. So this will talk about, hey, for this particular test case, what specific test data I need, the list of all the data. Okay. Then it's a post condition. What should be true if I run this test case successfully? Okay. And the status, you can just say it's, hey, it's a design, or it's executed, it passed, failed, those kind of things. And then if you want to put any notes for anybody in the future, whether to execute it or to update the test cases, that's what you go for. Okay. Everybody good so far? Now let's take an example. Okay, and a simple example, right? So we had that site administrator login example. Remember we said that we can have potentially 3 test cases. So let's write one of them. Let's write the one that, hey, I'm able to successfully log in as a site administrator into the system. So if I had to run that test, how would I run that? Okay. So let's do that, right? So let me say my project name is R1. Okay. My module name is security. Remember, like, if you look into the design, there was a security module defined that everything goes through that. I'm going to put that priority as high because if I can't
Don't worry
log in,
about
I
it.
can't
Yeah,
do any other
just-
function in the system.
Just pay attention over there, okay?
Yeah, for now, just pay attention here. Close your notebooks. You don't
Close
need
your
that.
notebooks, you don't need your notebook.
Focus
okay?
here. If you don't understand this, you will be lost for the rest of this course. You got to start paying attention to this because this is the more bread and butter things that you will be doing every day when you write into this scenario. Okay. And I'll give you plenty of time to exercise. Trust me today. All you're going to do it is after I'm done is you're going to work it all day today. Okay. So if I can't log in, and there's nothing else is going to happen, right? So this test case is going to have high priority. It must pass in order for me to go and do the other functions. I'm just going to keep it things simple. I'm going to say, hey, this is the first test case, the T01. In the scenario when you use the tools, all those numbering will happen automatically. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. Okay. So I can just say validate super user login. Precondition. Because if the user is not present in the system, I can't log in, right? It has to be created by somebody in the system so that I can go in and log in that super user. In this case, since it's starting, right, there is no dependency with anything. Does it make sense? What kind of test case is this? Positive or negative? This is positive test case, right?
Yeah.
I'm just following the right user ID password to successfully log in into the system. Any questions so far? Okay. Let's get into the test steps.
So,
Yes.
On the dependency stuff, can we say that the user login will be dependent on the fields being created?
Why would that be a dependency? Dependency is I'm dependent on the external system for specific things. If there are specific things which are related to the system, it is here. So this one would be something like, hey, I do have access to the system. If it is supposed to be tested only in some particular environment, right? In this case, we said that, hey, it needs to be accessible from internet, so then I don't have to worry about getting it access to some environment where I can go in and test it.
But if you could, depending on you having access to the internet?
No, you don't want to write it those kind of huge dependency, right? Otherwise, you will go into the, hey, I have an access to somebody who knows how to type it too, right? To what point you stop. So just keep it limited to what it makes it sense from the external system dependency. So let's say, what do you do first thing when you want to go into some system internal login? Where do you go first? Browser. You go to the home page, right?
Home page.
Since this is an application going to be accessible from internet, you go to the browser, right?
Yeah.
So does this make sense?
Yes.
Just by doing this, do you think you can go there? What am I missing here?
That is that.
If I tell you, go do these steps, can you guys do it? What am I missing here?
The link?
The URL, right?
Yes.
So what is that URL at this point? Is the data, right?
Yes.
So now, what is the application URL?
Maybe Apple.com.
Is it outfront.com? Okay, open up your section where you do all the exercises. Right after the PowerPoint slides, the first section is exercise, right? Where we did the exercise 1. Go towards the end of that particular section. Okay, and then flip one page, which is an empty test case. You see a sheet which tells you all the data. And if somebody who found it, tell me the URL. Go ahead, say it loudly, it's okay. That's, you found it, so. Our phone training. That's okay. Okay? So I have that data now. So I'm good. What should I expect it when actually I type it? Right. Good. What do I do next?
Session. And username, password, ID, for the super user.
Do I have to do anything else?
Click enter.
Right.
enter.
Probably it'll have something like login or something, right?
Yeah.
Because enter will not make more sense from the usability point of view. It makes more sense if you say it's login button, then you can say click, right? What happens if I don't put this thing?
So, okay, lack of information.
Right. So remember, whatever you put it in the step has to be some sort of action, right? If I just enter user ID and password, there is no action, right? I'm just entering data, but then what do I do after? Right? I'm going to either submit or log in or those kind of things. So I'm telling system now to do something based on what I told, the data that I entered, right? Same thing here, right? Here I entered the home page, right? So and then click go, right? So now I'm telling them to do something, and then something happens. Okay, so in this scenario, what would you expect?
The display, the platform should be displayed or open.
Say that again?
A phone platform should be open or displayed.
Platform? Or is it an application?
The page should be open for you.
That's all?
I think we're able to access the system. When you click in, you put on your password, everything, and then the system identify that you are the rightful owner of the system, that will allow you to get into the system.
Right, so just like what you said, what is the first thing that happens? It validates, right? So it takes this information, says, is this user ID and a password valid or not? Right, so system performs that check first.
Yeah.
And if that check passes, then what happens?
Then you allow it to the system.
Then you go to whatever home page for that particular user is going to be. Remember, you have in design, you have a login, and then it goes to home page to allow them to do different actions.
Yeah.
So allow them to go to home page, right? So you need to start using some of those verbiage that was specified in the requirements document and design document. So it's a consistency. Okay? So okay. Put a line to it. So for this particular thing, this is what I'm expecting. Okay. What is missing now here? Data, right?
Yeah.
So I need to put the data, right? Now remember, like what you should do is whatever reference you used here, make sure you use the same thing here, right? So I use user ID, so instead of like you can't just say username here,
Yeah.
right? So consistency point of view, make sure you use the same thing. Okay. What is the user ID for super user? Anybody can tell me? Like this?
No, the ST and then the R will be in capital letters.
So what is the one thing that you guys noticed here? So you need to ask a question to your developer, does the case matter or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay? What's the password?
Training.
Like this?
Or in small letters, yeah.
What do I do next? process looking for?
All the logins
What do I do next?
would be dealer users.
Hmm?
You're adding super users.
Am I done, or do I need to do anything?
I mean, if, it depends, if you wanna like check on a particular something.
What exactly is, say, what is my test case is gonna be?
Looking at the users, the dealer user,
No,
What is my test cases?
super user.
Login username.
All I'm looking for, can I log in successfully or not?
Yeah.
I never say that I'm gonna go and try to see if I can access dealer things or can access lender things, right? So focus on what is the purpose of the test case. Make sure you identify only those things. Am I missing anything than what I was looking for when I started this test case?
No.
No, then I'm done, right? All I need is 2 steps. And as long as both of them passes, then I know my test case is good.
What about the actual result?
Which user?
What about the actual result? We'll compare it.
Actual result, when do you get the actual result?
After testing.
When you run the system. Do you have a system?
Not yet.
Not yet. So what are you gonna do? This
Just
is,
leave it blank.
just leave it blank. This is your design, right? So you're not in execution phase yet because you don't have the system.
Okay.
But you have to design. Based on your understanding of the system, you're expecting the system will behave like this. And that's what you're writing it down in the test cases. So I am done with my data, right? Okay. What happens in a post condition? What is now true in the system?
The super user can log in the system.
Super user is logged in the system at this point, right? So the status is planned because I haven't run it, I've just designed.
Yeah.
So I know, hey, I've done it, planning session. So this is the test case. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and save it. So that's how you write the test cases. Good? Any question? Okay, let's take one step further. Okay, the login was very easy. So the login was very easy, right? Because I know I had that. But if I get a requirement, how do I know what test cases I need to run? Okay, so let's start with, so I'm in the 265 section. Okay, let's first take a requirement. Let's take a requirement of 2.4. Okay. Anybody want to guess what test cases were required in order to validate that requirement or test this requirement? 2.4. I'm looking at this one. It's a total repair cost, right? Nothing to do with the loan calculator.
What page is it? Is it managed use or?
Go into requirements document, section 265.
that's subject to interpretation.
Yes.
Okay.
Submit within those requirements, which is 2.4. Did everybody found it?
Section 265, submit
If
credit
you don't find it,
application.
that's okay, you can see it here.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about it. What are the different test cases I will need it for this requirement? Did everybody run the initial test that I told about it? 3 C&Ts.
And you would have to, be able to be,
David, if you can speak,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
there is a fan noise.
you would have to be able to, like with the calculations from before, where, certain credit, or certain credit score got a certain percentage.
Right. Are you assuming or do you have that information?
I don't think we have that information yet.
Did anywhere in the document you find that how to calculate the total repair cost?
No, no.
If you don't know how to calculate, how do you know the system is going to auto-calculate? How do you test it? Did you run a 3C and a T test on this one? What is 3C? Let's talk about it.
Correct.
Okay. Which C fails here? Is it correct?
No. Complete?
No, it's not complete.
They're not
Is it
complete.
correct?
These words, it's just not.
I'm looking for simple yes, no answer. Is it
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Everybody yes? Someone no? It's either yes or a no. There is no silent answer here. You're responsible to test this thing.
Yeah.
Okay? What is the second C?
Consistency?
Is it consistent?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Consistent with what?
What would be the requirements?
When you look for consistency, what do you look? Is it same as everywhere else specified in the document? Is it specified anywhere else in the document? Where it is specified? It's nowhere else is specified in the document, right? Because how to calculate? So it's only in one place, so it is consistent because there's nowhere else it's specified. Is it complete?
No.
No.
Why it's not complete?
Because there's no format in which.
So why did it take you guys 5 minutes to figure that one out when I told you to do the testing way before? Can you write test cases from this thing?
You can.
What do you do then?
Step one.
So then we'll go to the requirement.
This is the requirement document.
Go to step one.
What about the loan calculator?
This is the requirement document. Where do you go? Loan calculator. What does a loan calculator do?
So it calculates
It calculates the monthly amount based on the cost amount that I give it.
yeah.
Does it calculate total cost?
No.
So you have to test for total cost now.
What do you do in this case?
Now,
We talked about it even when we talk about the example on Thursday. What do you do when you do not have a complete requirement?
you ask more for more
Talk to
information.
who?
The developer.
Okay, only one person speaks and speaks it loud. If we can't speak it loud, I can't hear. Because somebody else in the classroom can't hear. So whoever wants to answer it, speak it loud. Where do you go? talk to stakeholders, right? Whoever gave you this requirement, in some cases, there will be a cross-reference or requirement source. You go track it down that source and say, explain it and say, hey, can you help me understand how you're going to go to auto calculation? Okay. So assignment for today, go back and read the requirements document and identify the requirements that you don't understand. Look for 3C and a T test. Okay. Don't just now go and read the document. It's not going to help you if you just blindly read the document. You need to take every requirement and you try to dissect that and say, do I understand this requirement? Okay? All right. So we know that we can't proceed any further with this requirement until we talk to the business.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's take another example. Let's take it, the first one. Okay? So, make it think simple. Can everybody read that? Okay. So that's the requirement. So if I have to write the test cases from this requirement, what do I do? How many test cases? Let's talk about how many test cases. How many test cases you will need in order to test this requirement?
Five.
How many?
5.
5? Where did you come up with that number 5?
So the applicant's name? No, it should be 4.
Okay.
Then the joint applicant name, if there is.
Okay.
The address. The social security number, the dealer.
Okay. Anybody else has any other numbers?
Wait, I think, for me, I think it should be 6.
What is the sixth scenario?
The ability in order for you, like existing on the research credit report, like if there's any data in the system.
Sorry, I didn't understand when you say it's.
I'm saying like it's the ability to search existing credit applicant.
Right. So we are searching existing credit application.
Yeah, what I'm saying, like, we have like, check if they're like older in the system, if the applicant has applied before.
Oh, the older ones. But I'm doing search. So if it's already existing, it will show me all of them. If there are more than one, it will show more than one. Right.
Is it and, the going is and or?
That's a good question. What did you understand? Did everybody understand what Rajbir was asking?
What is it?
It's a combination of that, right? How do I know it's a combination? Do you guys know it? Is it and or or? Are you guessing or do you know? First rule of thumbs, as a tester, you don't guess anything for requirement. Unless you can read the mind of a user, that effort is not going to be useful anytime. So stick to what it is. And when you don't have understanding, what do?
You ask.
You ask. Okay. So you are on the right track in terms of how I go about it, but it's not just 5. There's a lot more test cases that you need to do it in order to validate this requirement. Okay, so first thing we're missing is it an and or, right? So let's pretend that since Harshal is in the room, he is our stakeholder or person who gave the requirement. So Harshal, what is your understanding when somebody searches on those criteria? Is it and or?
It can be any criteria or any combination. So,
Okay.
for example, I can put in applicant name or address. So it should search only on those two fields. If
But,
I put in applicant name only, then it will search on applicant name
so
only.
you're saying it's one or more?
One or more. Yeah.
Okay, it's good.
And as long as I enter applicant name and address, it needs to find matching records,
But does
Based
it
on
need to
both.
match both
Both.
or one?
both.
Okay, so that means it's an and, right?
So it's kind of like a narrowing down the filter, basically, what I'm looking for.
Okay. So our user clarified 2 things about this requirement. That, hey, I can do one or more criteria, and if there are more than one criteria identified, it needs to be a combination. That means it needs to match both the criteria, or all 5 criteria, depending on whatever the specific. Okay. So that's our requirement. So if I need to validate, how many times I need to do it, right? So the first thing you need to do, let's do this thing first, and then we'll go there. Okay? So when I have, so now, I can say I have one or more than one criteria, right? Everybody with me so far?
Yeah,
I have 2 scenarios now. I specified only one criteria, or I specify more than one criteria. Within one criteria, then we'll just go with your rule, right? There are 5 different ways I can search it. Okay? So I just search it on name. Right? Joint applicant name. I can do an address. I can do that, or the dealer name. Good with this? Okay. This is first name, last name? What is its applicant? Because if you look into applicant's name, right, there is a first name and a last name.
Yeah.
What do you mean by name, Harshal, here? Is it first
So,
name, last name, or what? is it?
Applicant has first name and last name, so as long as I enter name, it should look in the both
Okay.
first name and last name and find the matching one, either of them.
Right, so it could be either matching first name or last name. Now I have 2 different sub-scenarios. So it's not just the 5, but it's 6 now. Okay, same thing probably with the joint application?
That's correct, that's correct.
What about address? Is it just the street name, city name, zip code? What do you mean by address?
Oh,
It's a street address, and this, basically that's what we are looking for typically, street address.
So it's only one. Okay. Social security number? Yes.
A question. Now, when you say we are looking for the street address, so let's assume we put in any address without, let's say, the state, the city, and let's say the zip code, and we say street address. So can we just put in like 134?
Northwoods, yes, that's correct.
Just like that.
Yes,
That's all
correct.
he just said. It's looking only by street names. I'm not even gonna go and worry
Put the
about
city.
search by state or a city. As
Just,
long, it could be in the
Yeah.
same street address in 5 different cities.
Uh-huh.
I wanna show it all of them. Because I'm matching it on the street name.
based on the requirement.
That's what he said, requirement, that's what I asked him, what does address means to you? For the search purpose.
Oh, okay, so it's based on the.
Based on what user wants,
The
I'm
user
not
wants.
doing any
Okay.
assumption.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, that's what I mean.
That's why I'm asking him, hey, Mr. User, as I try to understand what it is. So what I'm showing you a technique that you need to think about it to see, do you really have a 3C and a T? And also identify how many test cases and test scenario I'm gonna have.
So if that be the case, why do you use the first and last name for the first one?
That's a requirement. But it usually-
Because that's what the requirements say.
Oh, okay.
I'm not assuming anything.
Oh, okay.
So
now
everything is based
it's
on.
on his.
The user.
Okay.
But my question is based on the information I read in the document. I didn't make up that, hey, there is a first name and a last name. Right? If you read the requirements document, in a credit application, what does the name mean? Social security number, fairly simple, right?
Yeah.
Standard dealer. Right? Does dealer have a first name, last name? It doesn't, right? So it's the same one. Okay. Good. A question for you, Herschel. Do I have to provide exact name or can I provide partial names?
They are exact names.
They are exact
So
names.
we'll match exact
Okay,
names.
so if the name is John, I can't just put J-O and expect that to come back. I have to put a John. Okay, but if he said that it's partial, then you need to worry about making branch, full name and partial name, right? So that's how you break that entire requirement and go down into it.
Now, if I enter social security number and I enter first name, then I should be able to find match based on the social security number alone. So you can have those kind of combination. Ignore all other criterias, have it on the social security number only.
Yeah.
So let's go on that one, right? So more than one, now I have to worry about it. There are 5 of them, right? So if I use a pure permutation and a combination, how many comes it if I have to do more than one criteria? That's a huge number, right? So I'm gonna list it, right? So it could be name and joint applicant name. Right? It could be name and address. It could be name and dealer. It could be name and SSN, right? Because even the Herschel said that, hey, you can search only by SSN.
Yeah.
You still have ability for somebody to enter it. You still want to say, what if I put wrong name and an SSN? What happens in that scenario? It should not result in anything, right? Because now I have to worry about combination. If it's true name and a social security, then yeah, the search is only by name. Now, within the name, it's a first name and a last name, right? So you need to start now worrying about listing all those combinations. So you think about it, how many test cases comes out just from that one requirement, explodes it? Now, this was only 2 requirements. What is? Right, so now I need to worry about 2 criteria. Right? This is 3 criteria. A, B, and C. A and B and C. I will list those test cases. You see how exhaustive it can be? It's a simple one requirement. I want to be able to search. Do you get your minds around now? How do you go take it and break it?
So sir, can you give us an example of the 3 criteria? Now we have the 2 criteria.
Anybody wants to give an example of 3 criteria?
Applicant name, joint name, address.
also have 4 criteria.
Yeah.
And then what if somebody provides all 5?
Yeah.
Should be 10, so it's like 2, 6, and then 2 more.
So if I want to do exhaustive search, I'll have to write test case for each one of them. Right? So here alone, right, so if I do only one criteria alone, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you count all the leaf in my entire tree. So 7 test cases just if I'm using one criteria. Okay. Same way I need to build a tree for 2 criteria. Count all the leaves. 3 criteria, count all the leaves. So just in this alone, I can go about 30 plus test cases to make sure it's working as expected.
So, with this, I recommend 2.1, as we are currently looking. If say we have 30 test cases for this, so that is exclusively for this one alone.
This requirement alone.
That's why they hire you full-time to do this work,
I know, right?
right? Because it's a lot of work.
Now, let's go back. Some of you had like it's going to say, hey, I'll be done in 5 days doing all the testing. Reflect that for a moment.
There's no like a way out of this, like if you select some combinations which are good and you only test those, but you have to test.
Now you're looking shortcuts.
Like for example, SSM is unique, SSM and last name is said that you can.
So let me put this in a context. If this was a rocket launch, and you had to go to 50 combinations, and it says, let me just go, say, hey, feeling lazy, let me just test only 2 combinations. Do you think it'll be a smart thing to do for the people who are sitting on that rocket? Do you want to sit on that rocket when it's launched?
No. No way.
If I'm in a healthcare, right, a doctor, right, based on the information that system analyzes, it recommends the drugs. Do I want to be having the patient that who wants to take the drug based on only partial analysis?
So can there be a formula for testing the cases?
What is formula?
So right now we have, even for one, we have about 7 test cases. Right. So based on the 2 criteria, 3 criteria, 4 criteria, 5, can there be a formula to?
You're a math teacher, right?
Yes.
What is this?
Huh?
How can you come to the answer? There are 5 things that needs to be tested in a 1 or more combination. What formula I will use it?
So I'll use the exponent.
NPR plus NCR.
Yes.
Permutations plus the combinations. Right? But what's more important? Understanding what all we needed or just understanding the count?
What we needed.
Hmm?
Who we needed.
What we needed.
Right. Not the count. Count doesn't matter. You need to figure it out what I need at minimum in order to make sure it works as expected. Okay. Now think about it. If I'm doing an agile, right? It may say, okay, yeah, it's great all this combination. Let's just get only the search by 1 criteria up and running first. So in the first iteration, your focus is only this 7. Then say, it's okay, let me work on a second iteration where, oh, I can specify now more than 1 combination. And I have to do it only this many additional test cases. Right? That's how you build it on an agile work. When you Any question on this thing? Do you guys understand the process of how you need to start breaking it down? Okay. Let's do one more. Let's pick another one. Let's do this thing.
2.9.
Don't worry about that, right? So anybody wants to write it down, this thing, for your reference before I erase it? This is 26521.
How would I take a picture and send it to this guys?
Oh, hang on, then let me
Okay.
put the requirement also, right? So it becomes easier. The requirement. One thing I was going to try and do it is, there we go. Good, so Harsha will send it. Good. Just need another 30 seconds to write it down, or are you good? Now let's talk about this. Okay, this is section 26521. No, this is 26229. Okay. So this requirement says password must be 8 characters and requires at least one uppercase and a special character. Okay. So let's talk about the tree. In order to validate this, where do I start? I start with the length, right? Because that's the first thing. Anything which is less than 8 or more than 8 needs to be rejected right away. Right? So I have I'm going to have less than 8 8 characters and more than 8. do I have any more branches if it's less than 8 or more than 8? Do I worry about it?
No.
I can just quickly check the length and reject right away.
Yeah.
Right, so I don't have to worry about anything. Here also, I don't have to worry about testing, it's only 1 character or 2 character or 3 character, right? As long as it's 7 or less, I can blindly reject it. Okay. Now for 8, what are the different things I need to worry about?
Uppercase.
Uppercase, lowercase, special character.
Okay. So what I need to look into it, right? Think about, right? So it requires an uppercase and a special character,
Yeah.
right? So let's just look at it from the positive point of view, right? It has an uppercase, right? Right? Then I have to worry about it.
Yeah. Special
Does
character.
it has a special character?
Special character. Special character.
Right?
Yeah.
If there is no uppercase, do I have to worry about checking the special character?
No.
Probably not, right? So if it has uppercase and a special character, do I need to worry about how many uppercase or how many special characters are?
No.
Because as long as there is 1 or more, I'm good,
Yes.
right? So for this particular test case, right, if I can look into it, how many leaves I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in order to make sure my password meets the requirement, I need to run at least 5 different test cases. If any one of them fails, the requirement is not fulfilled. Right? So it has to have all 5 passed in order for me to say, yes, this requirement is implemented correctly. You guys with me?
Yes.
So doesn't more than 8 needs the same?
Do I worry about if it's more than 8? What is the requirement?
Must be eight.
Must be 8 characters. It doesn't say it has to be more than 8 characters. It just says it has only 8. Anything more than 8 is
So,
not
I
a
mean the
valid password.
uppercase and special character, they'll still apply, right? With more
Do
than-
I need to worry about it? If it's more than 8, even if it has an uppercase and a special character, is it going to pass?
No, it has to be 8.
It has to be 8.
Oh,
If it has to be 8, why would I worry about it? Good? Why don't you guys write it down, this? One like